Everybody turn around, face forward, please. Come on, everybody, grab a seat. All right, it's a special day today. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for showing up today. It could have been very easily for you guys to say, oh, today's a blow-off day, I'm not going to come to school, and you did that. So thank you for that. It's going to be really important. I think you're going to like this today, okay? I have a special speaker for you, okay? Since day one, when you guys came here in September, I've been honest with you guys. I've always been honest with my students. So we're going to have an honest talk today. So I brought a speaker to you that's going to speak from the heart and be honest with you. I want you to pay attention. I want you to give him the ego pride that we have. And I want you to pay attention. So I'm going to introduce you to him, okay? Our speaker today was born and raised on a farm in west of Wichita, Kansas, and moved to the Ozarks after several years in Southern California. But he's lived all over the free world. His name is Dale Mesmer, but everybody calls him Mad Dog. Okay? Mad Dog. So right now you know the speaker's going to be good, right? Anybody named Mad Dog is going to be good. But his nickname was earned the hard way. All right, let me have your attention. Eagles. His nickname was earned the hard way in the Marine Corps. He came here today to talk to you about your choices. Okay? You're going to hear about his choices, both good and bad, and some choices of others he's known, including students just like you. You may have seen Mad Dog on the Home and Family Show, Save Our Streets, Judge Hatchet. He's also the founder of Straight Talk Outreach Program, also known as STOP. He was featured on several national TV commercials, including The Club, Blockbuster Videos. He was featured on NBC's Working, 2.5 Men, Mad About You. He's a regular guest on the Maury Povich Show and Judge Hackett, working with at-risk kids. Okay, he runs something called Student Boot Camp. Who's ever talking out there? I want to end it now. Thank you. Okay. He was a business owner. He'll talk about that. He's a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, a disabled American veterans. He's a movie and television actor and a stunt man, a certified stunt coordinator, and a life member of the Screen Actors Guild. He's co-founder of America's Youth Ranch, a last chance for at-risk kids. Mad Dog has earned black belts in multiple martial arts and is an expert with a wide variety of weapons, including firearms and explosives. Okay? Unfortunately, Mad Dog has made some bad choices in his life. As a result, he was on the FBI's most wanted list. Now it just got interesting, right? He spent for 11 years in a maximum security prison in several states. He's here today to share some of his hard-learned lessons with you so you can learn from his experiences and you don't have to do them yourself. So anybody, we just had the speaker, he just talked last period to a bunch of seniors and freshmen. We had a bunch of people rushing to saying, how can I get his information? I want to contact him. I'm letting you know you can get it from the main office tomorrow or the rest of the week if you want to contact him, okay? Right now, I want your best round of applause for Mad Dog. Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Good. Before we get into this, let me ask you guys a question. That's a little loud, isn't it? I don't want to touch this, I won't blow it up. That's going to feed back. I got a big mouth. Here we go. Yeah, great. Now, thank you, sir. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you guys are happy to be here today? Okay. You guys ought to be thrilled to death for one reason. What you're doing right now, getting your education, is literally the one single most important thing you can ever do for your life in the future. Without an education, you'll be handicapped in life. You won't be able to go where you want, do what you want, or have what you want in life. Without an education, people can take advantage of you. And I can illustrate that one to you very quickly. I did time in prison in Tennessee with a guy. He come from a small town east of Nashville called Crossville, Tennessee. And in his hometown, he had a construction company, 3 or 4 gas stations, and a couple of car washes and stuff. And he always went out of his way to hire kids that did not have a high school diploma or a GED. People thought he was great for doing it. You got to understand something about that high school diploma. It doesn't prove how smart you are, and it doesn't prove what you know. But it does prove one thing beyond any doubt. It proves that you're willing to work to earn something for yourself. If you're not willing to work to earn something for yourself, why would I want you to work for me? That's how employers think. This guy, everybody thought he was terrific because he always gave jobs to kids that didn't have a high school diploma or a GED. He gave them a chance. The reason he was in prison with me, over a 10-year time period, he stole $20 to $30 a week out of their paychecks because they weren't sure how to figure out what their check ought to be at the end of the week with all the taxes and deductions taken out. He hired him because he was pretty sure he could steal from him and get away with it. And he did for 10 years. The kids never caught him. The Internal Revenue Service caught him. Otherwise, he'd still be doing it. That's just a small example of how important this can be for your life. Take this as far as you possibly can. There's one thing I can guarantee you, the amount of education you stuff into your head is going to determine what the rest of your life is going to be like, and that's an absolute fact. Take this as far as you can, any way you can. I promise you, it will make your life better. Part of your education process involves many things, but some of that is learning how to make choices about various things. And that's what I'm here today to talk to you about, is choices. Simple, common, ordinary, everyday choices. You make hundreds of choices every day without even realizing it. Small stuff, things that make absolutely no difference, have no effect on your life. What shoes you're going to wear, what shirt, what you're going to drink with your lunch, stuff like that. But some of the choices you're going to be facing in the near future, and some of you maybe already have, can change or affect your life dramatically, drastically, might even end your life. See, the choice that will change your life in a bad way, it's not going to come from a stranger like me that you've never seen before. The choice that's going to ruin your life will come from somebody you know and trust, a friend, an acquaintance, maybe a family member, maybe the person you're sitting next to right now. The reason that choice doesn't look like it would be dangerous is because you don't think that person ever do anything to hurt you. You need to understand how serious they can get. And that's part of what I want to try and do here today. I want to give you some numbers to think about before we get going real good here. Out of every 100 kids born in the state of Illinois, by the time they reach the age of 21, 15 either are or have been locked up directly because of drugs. 7 are dead directly because of drugs. That's 22 kids out of every 100 born in this state that don't have a happy 21st birthday. All because of drugs. Every 24 hours in America, in just the 14 to 18-year-old age group, just that 4-year time span, 36 teenagers are shot to death by other teenagers involved in drugs. 56 are permanently crippled or wounded because of the same thing, gunshots. 31 overdose on drugs and they die. 33 use drugs, drink alcohol, get behind the steering wheel of the car and try to drive, and they die. And 42% of the time they kill somebody else. And over 80% of the somebody else's that they kill is either a member of their own family or a close personal friend. 36 kids every day get into a car with a driver that they know has been drinking or using dope, and they die. But they get in the car anyway. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that last one, that's one that every one of you in this room, I can promise you, you're going to have to deal with in your life. Maybe more than once. Maybe you already have. If you're still here, you're lucky. Don't press your luck. I guarantee you luck will let you down when you need it the most. Rely on your common sense. And that's what we're here to try and do today. For the purpose of what I do, there are 3 groups of people in America. First group are intelligent people. These are people who see what happens to other folks when they do stuff. And when something bad goes on, they learn from that and they don't do it. Then we have group number 2. These are smart people. And they make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, guys. Nobody's perfect. The last perfect man walked this earth over 2,000 years ago. Ever since then, everybody else has been making mistakes. But smart people learn from their mistakes and they don't repeat them. Unfortunately, we also have group number 3. These are people who keep making the same mistakes over and over again, expecting different results. If you've been sent to the principal's office more than once for exactly the same thing, you might want to start thinking about which group you're working your way into. My purpose here today, hopefully, is to keep you out of group number 3. And in 1 or 2 for at least. Something else I need you to understand before we get started. This is not my job. This is not what I do for a living. This is not how I pay my bills. I don't have to do this. If every one of you guys goes on to become a United States, no, never mind. Those guys are crooks. A very successful business person, I don't get a bonus. If every one of you goes to jail, I don't get a dock and pay. The choices you make will affect your life. I'll never know about it unless you make CNN or unless you write me a letter or something. But the choices you make will affect you. So you have to understand, literally, I don't have a dog in this hunt other than giving you some information that I hope you pick up and use. Because I don't have to do that. I'm a certified stunt coordinator of the Screen Actors Guild. As a stunt coordinator, stuntmen and women's lives are in my hands when we do a stunt. If I make a mistake, somebody dies. And they pay me an obscene amount of money to do that. I work 10 days a year with Warner Brothers and Orion Pictures, and I live on that money for the rest of the year and go do this the rest of the year. By the way, you guys are school number 1863. I've been doing this for a while, since I got out of prison. So, take it or leave it. This is the way it is. I have no reason to say anything other than exactly how it is. Some of the stuff I have to say might scare you. It's not my purpose or my intent. I'm not going to waste my breath trying to scare anybody. That's stupid. Some of the stuff I have to say might offend you. I do not care. I much prefer you be offended for a few minutes listening to me than be offended by making a choice and put you in that group of 15 out of. Because then I can promise you, you're going to get offended every day whether you like it or not. There won't be a thing you can do to stop it. But we'll get into that in detail in a few minutes. I focus primarily in my talks on choices about marijuana use. I do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, 92% of the people in this country that are in prison are there on drug-related charges. Now that's either sales, use, or possession of dope, commission of a crime while under the influence, or commission of a crime to get the money to buy. Those that are there just on drug charges, straight up, nothing else, by their own admission at inmate intake interviews, 82% of them started by smoking pot. Now some of them stayed with it, others moved on to other stuff. But they started smoking pot, and that's one of the reasons I focus on. There's a couple other reasons I'll get into as we go along. To get involved with drugs, you're going to face one or more of three options. Without fail, without exception, I absolutely guarantee it. I was in the drug business, I saw it, I watched it happen to me. The first one is the best one of the bunch. It's called going to jail. Because the other two aren't quite so pleasant. I got busted on a Wednesday morning. I got caught at the airport in my airplane. I had a Beach King Air C-90. I got caught at the airport in my airplane with 260 kilos of cocaine, $1.8 million in cash, a machine gun, and 21 hand grenades. The feds got a little upset about that. And the hand grenades were because I didn't always do business with nice people. And I'm going to survive and come home. I made sure of that. I got busted on Wednesday morning. They hauled me down to the county there in Nashville. I made bail that afternoon for two reasons. First of all, they didn't realize exactly who I was connected to at that time. When they arraigned me and set my bail, they'd have set it beyond the moon if they'd have realized who I was connected to at that time. And the other reason was I made bails because I used to be a bounty hunter. I used to chase bail jumpers for the two bonding companies there in Nashville, Tennessee. Brought back 63 out of 67 that I went after. Most of the guys I went after were worth a lot of money. 3 of them got away on me. 2 of them had heart attacks, and another got out of the country before I get to them. I'm pretty good at that. And the feds started talking to me and telling me that with the charges that they had against me, they could give me 260 years just for federal prison time. And the feds do that stuff all the time. They'll give you more years than you can serve just to make sure you never get out. Because if they give you a life sentence, if you act right 20, 30 years down the road, you can apply for clemency and get your sentence reduced. Instead of life without parole reduced to a number of years, you might get to go home. If they give you 200 or 300 years, that's never happened. On a 260-year sentence, I'd have been eligible for parole in 210, you know? I don't think I was going to make that one. I decided if they were going to lock me up for that long, they were going to have to come find me. On Thursday morning, I walked into my attorney's office with a briefcase and $500,000 in cash and I handed it to her and I said, "Get me out of this." She said, "I can't. I can get a lot of it taken care of, but you're going to do some time." And I kept thinking about that 260 and I thought, okay, I'm out of here. On Friday morning, before I got my act together, federal officers at 8 o'clock showed up at our home. They walked into the 14 separate businesses that I owned and to the 2 banks where I did business. I had over 400 people working for me. At my home, they gave us 20 minutes to pack 1 suitcase of clothes for the kids, and they did that as a courtesy because it was wintertime, it was cold outside. They didn't have to do that. They walked us out of the house, changed the locks and the alarm codes, walked us down the driveway, pulled the gate shut, put a chain around it, and padlocked it, hung a sign on my driveway gate that said, "Property of the United States government, no trespassing." In 20 minutes, I went from being worth $3.8 million in liquid assets and $9.4 in total property and assets. Kids, that means I could write a check for $3,800,000 that would not bounce. 20 minutes later, I was worth $64. That's all the cash I had in my pants pocket that morning. That money and everything I owned is gone, gone forever. Never see any of it back. see, the thing that's more important, when they put us out in the street, the choice that I made affected my wife and kids tremendously. And it also affected the 400 people that work for me. Because when they closed my businesses down, those folks are out of a job. And that was 400 people that no longer had a check on Friday to go buy groceries for their kids. So when I tell you your choices don't just affect you, I'm not kidding. Now, in my case, that's kind of an extreme example. It's unusual, but it's still the same application. So the choices you make won't just affect you alone. They'll affect everybody around you that really cares for you, especially your immediate family. Try and keep that in the back of your mind. I'll tell you what, let's do this. You guys are looking way too serious. Let's try this. How many of you guys own a car? Okay, cool. How many of you hope to own a car someday soon? That would be everybody else. No. I've never met a kid in my life that didn't love their first car. And I don't care if your first car is the sorriest piece of junk in the parking lot, or if it is the slickest, shiniest, fastest thing out there. Every kid loves their first car. I didn't mind. My first car was pure junk. It was. I had a 1954 Chevrolet two-door sedan, 6-cylinder, 3-speed column stick shift. Would not start car. Me having the keys and the title didn't have anything to do with whether that car ran. It ran when it wanted to. And if I went somewhere, I always took 2 or 3 of my friends, or I parked on a hill. Because if I didn't, chances are I wasn't going to get back on time. By the way, when you get your first car, if you can, get a stick shift. Because your friends cannot push an automatic fast enough to make it start. You lose friends that way real fast. When you call your pal on Saturday and say, hey, let's go do something. We're taking your car. I said, sure. He said, no, I'm not going. I ain't pushing your car. Get a stick shift. And I'll tell you what, I spent more money on the stereo than I did on buying a car. Does that sound familiar to anybody out here? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Things aren't that much different from back in my day, though, kids. I mean, back in my day, we had 8-track tape players. You can look that up in your ancient history books, or some of the teachers are old enough to remember. You know, the big speakers and the equalizers on them. We didn't have that back in my day. I just took the big wooden speakers out of the living room and put them in the back window. They work pretty good. And every time I go to school, and I know some of you guys got killer speakers and sound systems, because I heard them this morning. And every time I go to a school, I like to sit out and watch kids pull in. And I see it every time. You'll see a kid pull up somewhere, wherever they're going, school, movies, the mall, whatever. Lock their car to get out and they start walking inside. And sometime before that kid gets inside that building, I promise you, they'll turn around and look back at their car. If you own a car and you tell me you don't do that, you're a liar. I do. I still do it. Some of the places I go, I turn around and make sure my car's still sitting there. I don't always come to places it's nice to talk to kids. Tell you what, let me tell you a little story. We'll see what you think. Just for the sake of argument, let's say that every one of you now has the car of your dreams, whatever it may be. And every one of you is now a legally licensed driver in the state of Illinois. God help us. And you can go out and get in your car and come and go and do whatever you want. No parent, legal guardian, driver over 21, none of that. You're on your own. You can come and go and do whatever you please. And you're out on a Saturday afternoon. You go pick up your buds. You're out cruising around. Got that stereo crank rattling in windows and stores as you drive down the street. Enjoying being free and alive in America. Now in the back seat, one of your friends comes up out of the pocket and says, hey man, let's smoke this. What do you say, huh? Yeah, good call. If you don't physically throw them out of your car like that, it'll cost you a lot more than you think it may. We'll get into that later. Just for the sake of argument, let's say you're not too bright. You say, sure man, fire that thing up. Let's smoke it. Let's get out. So now you're out cruising around, got that stereo bumping, enjoying being free and alive in America. Smoking a joint, getting high, and looking for the drive-through window. Because we're thirsty, we got the munchies now, I gotta eat something. Been there, done that. And as you're driving down the street, you drive past Officer Friendly. He's sitting off over on that side street doing his paperwork, you know. He hears your speakers thumping, you know, up at about Nagel. And as you drive by in front of him, he looks up to see what's going on. And when you go by in front of him, he's looking in the window of your car, and this is what he sees. Here, man. And he knows you are not passing a Winston. By the way, when I do this, without looking anywhere in particular, when I make a comment regarding drugs, and I see somebody out in the audience do something that tells me they obviously know what I'm talking about, when I look out there and I see a guy elbow his buddy, go, yeah, man. Why don't you just put a big neon light on you? Says, I smoke dope. You know, it's a dead giveaway. By the way, if I can see it, what do you want to bet they can too? Anyway. Well, that Officer Friendly sees you passing that joint. He now has what's known in the court of law as reasonable suspicion. That gives him the legal right to whip out there and stop you. So he's going to kick that big Ford Crown Victoria or that Dodge in the rear, light you up and pull out there. Let me give you some free advice for you when he further. When he goes to pull you over, pull over right then. Don't go for it. Don't run. First of all, you ain't going to outrun that big Ford or that Dodge. They're designed to run 140 all day long. And they'll drill an old Corvette in a quarter mile right now. I know. I have one. I've got a 2000 Ford Interceptor. My brother, bless his heart, he bought himself a little red plastic Chevrolet Corvette about 5 years ago. And he was so happy and so proud of that little car, and I kept trying to tell him, let's go out to the drag strip and run. I'm a quarter mile guy. I like going fast for a little bit. I finally talked him into doing it this last summer. We went up to Springfield, Missouri to the drag strip up there. We put him through the lights 3 times on, they have a day at the drag, so run what you brung. And an FB race car is where we got. We run him through the lights 3 times. I beat him by 4 car lengths all 3 times in my 4-door Ford. You ain't gonna outrun that cop, and when you try to, he's gonna get on the radio, and he's gonna call all of his friends. And when they do finally get you stopped, and they will get you stopped one way or the other, make sure you get your window rolled down before they get to the car. Because you're coming out of that window. I guarantee you, you're coming out of that window. Whether it's open or not. By the time they get you stopped, you put several people's lives at risk, including their own, and they're not happy. So you're driving along and he lights you up. You look in your rearview mirror, you see the lights, and he whoops that siren one time and go, oh, shucks, or something like that. You tell your friends in the back, guys, it's the cops. Everybody rolls the windows down. So you can smoke out of the car. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, no. If nobody else ever told you this, let me be the first one to enlighten you. I don't care if you drive 100 miles an hour for a week with the windows rolled down. You're not going to get the smell of pot out of your hair, clothes, and upholstery. The THC chemical in marijuana is a very sticky residual substance, and everything that the smoke touches, it leaves a lingering odor on. You're not going to get that smell out of your hair, your clothes, and your upholstery. Ain't going to happen. He's going to step up to the side of your car. He's going to have all of his stuff ready to rock. He's going to lean down and say, may I see your license, registration, proof of insurance, please? Aha. You'll notice that aroma coming out of your window. As soon as he smells that, he's going to look you dead in your eye. Don't waste your money on Visine or urine. He's not looking to see if your eyes are bloodshot. He's looking for 4 separate other indicators that will tell him whether or not you're under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And by the way, throughout the course of the day today, we'll be around here. Don't ask me what the 4 indicators are, I won't tell you. Besides, if you ain't doing dope, you don't need to know what they are. If you are doing dope, you don't need to worry about Officer Friendly. He's not your problem. That person you're going to meet down at state prison that's doing 25 to life with 2 life sentences tacked on, that's going to be your problem. But we'll get to that in detail in a few minutes. Been there, done that too. As soon as he sees this in your eye, he now has what's known in the court of law as probable cause. He now has a legal right to pull you out of your car, search your car, and test you for drug or alcohol use. If you're dirty, if you got dope on you, in your pocket, in your car, whatever, when they tell you to get out of the car, you might want to give your car a little kiss goodbye. If they want it, they'll take it, they'll keep it, they'll sell it at the auction, they'll keep the money. If you owe money to the bank, that's your problem. They do not care. I've thought for you. So you're out cruising around. Officer Friendly pulls you over because you have a taillight out. He's just going to tell you to get your taillight fixed, but you don't know that. You and your friends are riding around smoking dope. Your buddy in the back seat's got the pot. He sees the cop walking up. He gets nervous. He gets out and throws it on the floor. The cop's walking up. flashes down there and sees it. Who goes to jail? Everybody in the car. The only way that everybody in the car does not go is if your buddy in the back seat says, "Pardon me, officer, those are my drugs." Otherwise, everybody's going and you're losing your car. Just something to think about. Oh, by the way, if you think they won't take your property, I'm parked right out here in this parking lot, right over here. As you come straight out the door, you can see I'm parked at a spot that has yellow stripes on it. You're not supposed to park there, but I don't care. The principal told me I can park there up here. He's in charge around here. You'll notice that there's a 2012 Cadillac DeVille Touring sedan. It's a $63,000 car. It's my free Cadillac. I love that car. It goes fast and it sounds great. It's like driving your living room down the street with a pair of headphones on. It's a drug-seized vehicle. It was donated to my program by the Missouri Sheriff's Association. They give me a new one about every 2 years. So I don't wear my car out going to schools. I've had it 2 years. I got 157,000 miles on it. When I got the car, the window sticker was still in the glove box, and it had just over 900 miles on it. I think the guy that bought the car pretty much went straight to the dope dealer's house when they busted him. Now, if you go out there and run my tag number, it'll come back to me. If you run the VIN number, it'll come back to Missouri Sheriff's Association. If you think they won't take your stuff, I have proof sitting right out there. There's a nice sign right in the windshield that says drug seized vehicle. Feel free to go look at it. I love that car. It keeps me from wearing my car out. My personal car is a 75 Cadillac Coupe DeVille. But it's got a 502 crate motor and a 4-speed B&M hydro and tub wheel wells, and I can carry the front wheels across the intersection. I like them guys in the little Japanese cars that they pull up next to me at a stoplight, and I hook my caddy up and carry the front end across the intersection. I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to slow down. Of course, I'm old time. I'm old school. I'm a V8 guy. Anyhow, get involved with drugs, 3 options, one more. Second one's overdose. Okay? Now everybody thinks if you overdose, you do it, what you do, and you fall over before dead, and yeah, it happens all the time, much too often. 31 times a day to 14 and 18-year-olds every day. But all we talked about a little different kind. Let's get the results of a study done by the UCLA Medical Center and the American Medical Association here a while back. A friend of mine, a guy who I went to high school with, is a doctor, and he works for the American Medical Association. And he made me aware of this test, sent me a copy of it. What it was, they found a bunch of people out at the UCLA Medical Center who agreed to come in and be tested every 6 months so they could find out what the long-term physical and psychological effects were of marijuana use on the human body. They tested 2 groups of people. One were kids that started smoking pot about your age, 14, 15, 16. The other group of people didn't start smoking pot till they were in their early to mid-20s. Okay, this was a 20-year deal. They came in every 6 months and got tested. For the purpose of their test, they determined that 1 joint a week for 6 months or longer is considered prolonged use. If you smoke more than that, the effects just come on faster, that's all. They had several side effects. I don't have the time to tell you about all of them. I just want to tell you about a couple. First of all, they discovered that the THC chemical in marijuana likes, for whatever reason, they still don't understand this yet, likes to attach the undeveloped brain cells before it attacks the ones that are functioning. Okay, you guys may think you're grown, but your brain is not fully developed yet. It won't be until you're 21, 2, 3, something like that. And the THC chemical in marijuana likes to attack undeveloped brain cells. They're still trying to figure out why. So it's a simple deal. You smoke a joint, hits your lungs, hits your bloodstream, goes through your bloodstream, hits your brain. When it hits your brain, it causes the brain cells in your brain to rupture open, release a chemical out of your brain cells known as endorphins. These endorphins go back to your bloodstream and they make you feel good. The human body is comprised entirely of cells. They all regenerate and renew on a regular basis, some on an hourly basis, except for one set of cells. And it never regenerates. And that set of cells is brain cells. You've got all the brain cells you're ever going to have for the rest of your life right now. That might be scary for some of you, I don't know. But every time you use drugs and alcohol, especially pot, you're destroying the brain cells that you're going to depend on to help you think, solve problems, answer questions as you get older in life. You're doing damage to stuff that you're not even using in your brain yet. Sorry, but it's a fact. There's several others called short-term memory loss. I can't remember little things, details, small stuff. I mess up all the time. I do this somewhere in school every day. Almost every day. You guys are school number 1863, I think it is. So I've been doing this for a while. And you'd think after the years that I have done this, I would have this deal down pat where I could just go down the line and tell you everything is it. I can't do that. I lose it. I'll be going on and doing this and I'll forget where I'm at. It's already happened once while I was up here. I was kind of stalling along until I could figure out where I was. There's been several times I've just had to stop and say, okay guys, what was the last thing I said? Because it'll just go away on me. Happens to me all the time. Lose the small things. Makes your daily life function smoothly. Names, addresses, birthdays, anniversaries, phone numbers, appointments, where you're supposed to go. Oh, by the way, guys, anniversaries, don't do that. Don't dump an anniversary. I had the great good fortune to meet a lady 15 years ago. Oh, by the way, something I forgot to mention to you, see, here we go. My first wife, we started dating when we were sophomores in high school. We have 7 kids. She got killed by a drunk driver 2 years after I got locked up. I really hope that they make him do his time in the prison I was in when it happened. It's probably a good thing that they didn't. Never saw her again. By the way, when you're in prison, you are not going to the funeral. They just call you down to the chaplain's office. They called my number on the PA system, said report to the chaplain. I went down, knocked on his door. He said, who are you? I said, Mesmer, 924-978. Your wife died last Friday. You go back to your cell now. That's as good as it gets. I forgot to tell you about that earlier. I had the great good fortune to meet this lady 15 years ago, 16 years ago, I'm sorry. Fell out of the sky and landed in my life, probably the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't think I'd ever be this lady. We got married. On our first anniversary, I was ready to rock. I showed up with the flowers and the candy and the little bracelet and the necklace, and I'm taking you to dinner. Where do you want to go? Get dressed up. We're going dancing. She took all the stuff and smiled at me and said, well, happy Pearl Harbor Day, idiot. This is December the 7th. Our anniversary is December the 4th. See, I knew I was in trouble because on December the 4th, she never said a word. She could have mentioned it, you know, given me a hint. I knew I was in deep kimchi as soon as that happened. Anybody here know what kimchi is? Okay, good. It tastes okay if you get past the smell. And I like bologna sandwiches, but after 3 months I got tired of it. Guys, don't ever dump an anniversary. I've got it in my notebook, in my phone, in my computer at home. It's in the computer in my car. I ain't doing that again. Although, to be quite honest, I've done 2 other ones over the years. Yeah, it just goes away. You lose the ability to function smoothly on a day-to-day basis because you forget the small things that make your world run. There's been several times I've showed up at a school to do this, and they say, wow, great, glad you're here. What are you doing here today? You're supposed to be here tomorrow. I went to a school one day and showed up, and the principal was really PO'd at me. I was supposed to be there yesterday. I do stuff like that. I forget it. It just goes away. If I don't write it down, I will not remember it. I've met several people here today. I can't tell you the names. I didn't take the time to write down their name. You know, guy in a blue shirt. He's this. His name is Joe. If I don't write it down, chances are I won't remember it. Found another side effect. It's a little more serious. You might want to listen to this one. Found out that people involved with prolonged marijuana use occur permanent and irreversible changes in the chromosomes of their DNA structure. You guys studied the chromosomal DNA structure in your biology and science classes? Okay, let me give you a quickie on it, okay? The chromosomes of your DNA structure come from your parents. One pair comes from your mom, one pair comes from your dad. That's as far as I'm going on that one. Somebody else can tell you the rest of it if you want to know. I ain't. But long before you ever come out to shoot, before you come out the gate, 90% of what you are physically, tall, short, skinny, fat, hair color, eye color, skin color, everything physically about you is predetermined to about the 90th percentile by your parents' chromosomes. Well, I found that people involved in prolonged marijuana use change, it causes changes in their chromosomes. And even though they stop using it, they don't change back. Well, when the results of this test came out, the sheriff of Los Angeles County, Mr. Lee Baca, Sheriff Baca, called me, told me about it, and asked me if I'd seen it, and I said, yeah, I have. And he asked me if I'd come out to California and bring my son Sean with me. See, he knows my son Sean. I have 3 sons. My wife has 3 daughters and a boy. My oldest boy is an electrical engineer. My middle son is, he lives in Kansas, He's head of the steam fitters and pipe fitters union up there. He's like the #3 guy for the state. My youngest son, Sean, he's got a room temperature IQ, 58. Lee Baca asked us if we'd come to California because he saw the results of the test. And I called Sean and I talked to him and he said, yeah, he was all for making a trip to California. So the Sheriff's Department paid for it. We went out there. We went to UCLA Medical Center and they put us through tests for 3 days. I mean, you know, whiz in the cup, spit, skin samples, hair samples, you know, x-rays, CAT scans, all kinds of stuff. When the results came back at Sean's and my chromosomal DNA comparison scan test was 98.37% identical in every way. Except you see, my son Sean has never once in his life ever used drugs or alcohol. And I'm not trying to tell you he's some great goody two-shoes kid. He's just a kid like you guys are. He didn't have the ability to go find it. My son Sean has heard me talk about how important a high school diploma is many times. Because he comes with me when I do this sometimes, when he can. Well, he decided he was going to get his high school diploma. That's one of the reasons I'm so proud of him. He lives in Wichita with my mom. He goes to the same high school that I went to. He wants to get his diploma from where I got mine. Goes to school every day. And he's like, he's in Kansas, they'll let you go to school till you get your diploma. They don't care how long it takes. He got his diploma. Only took him 7 years. Now he's attending Fringe University in Wichita, Kansas, because he wants to go to college. My son will never get a degree. I mean, it's just that simple. But as long as he wants to go to school, I'll pay for it. Because he's the way he is, according to the neurosurgeons at UCLA Medical Center. Because when I was your age, I started smoking pot and drinking Jose and Budweiser. I thought I was cool. It's like getting friends convinced me how cool it was to party. They don't know yet why it doesn't affect every kid in the family. They don't know why it won't affect any in a bunch of families, or it affects just this one kid or something. Some families it affects all of them. They don't know why yet. See, there's something else that bothers me that I think about a lot. My son Sean's a great kid. He's going to Fringe University here in Wichita. He lives with my mom. My mom's in her late 80s, mid 80s. She's about this tall, weighs about 90 pounds, soaking wet. She's one of 2 people on earth that can kick my butt anytime she wants to. The other was my wife. Guys, I don't know why you're laughing. You see the girls are all smiling? You better think about that. Everybody else has to prove it. But you see, my mom's old. She's in good health for her age. She's going to go someday. When she does, Sean will have to come live with me and I'll have to stop doing this. Because I'll have to take care of it. See, the thing that makes me nervous, I got a bad pump. I've had 3 heart attacks since July 2005. My cardiologist at the Veterans Administration tells me my heart is functioning at 45%. And the only reason I function as well as I do now was because of how healthy I was in the beginning. Most guys whose hearts function less than 50% spend the rest of their lives in a chair. I refuse to do that. I am going to have another heart attack. He told me that point blank. I believe it. You guys know what these are? Anybody? I bet you do. Well, you're old enough now. Most people don't. These are nitroglycerin pills. If I start to have a heart attack, these will buy me about 10 minutes. If the ambulance don't get to me within 10 minutes, chances are I'm checking out. So, when Sean comes to live with me, I'll stop doing this. Who's going to take care of my son when I die? Because he can't take care of himself. He can't work at a job. He can't. If you give him a $1 bill and then tell him, make change for $1, give me back change for 35 cents. He's got to count on his fingers to do it. And I did that to him. I'm not a bit proud of it. But you need to know it. Because there's a chance you can do the same thing. And boy, isn't that a wonderful gift to give to somebody you're supposed to love? Tell you about my friend Roger. Roger's the best friend a guy could ever have on this planet. I have kids tell me all the time, oh, Adler, I have lots of friends. Let me make something clear to you. No, you don't. You have lots of acquaintances. Kids that you know, that you get along with, that you like, you have a good time together. But if you're lucky in your entire lifetime, maybe you'll have 5 true and genuine friends. Now I'm talking about, you make the phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're in jail 5 states away and your pal gets up out of bed and drives over there to bail you out of jail. Those kind of friends. Very few people have friends like that. I feel real fortunate I have 4 friends like that. Guys that I would do anything for because I know they do it for me. Let me tell you about my friend Roger. Roger's an African-American graduate of the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland. Graduated 6th in his class. Something you guys need to understand. The Naval Academy is a very big deal. Okay, they get 15,000 applications every year. And they only accept 400. You got to have something going on big time just to get accepted into the Naval Academy. Roger graduated 6th in his class out of 400. This is a sharp guy. He had it going on. Whenever it came time for him to declare in his senior year, he told him he was going to go Navy. That was a bad choice. He should have went Marine Corps, but he's a good officer. Sorry, I'm kind of prejudiced about the Marine Corps. No offense, Navy. I met Roger in 1967. By that time, I was a young sergeant in Force Recon. I was an 8541 Scout Sniper. Roger went on to become an explosives expert. Then he started working with some of the first Navy SEAL teams they started putting together in the mid-60s during the Vietnam War. I met Roger in 1967. We wound up working together for a period of time. Roger was an officer. He made all the decisions, made all the choices, and he gave the orders. I mean, I put in my 2 cents worth, but he's the guy that decided how to win. He must have been a pretty smart guy, because on any given day he could have got us all killed. Something as simple as do we go this way or do we go that way? He had to have been a pretty smart guy. We all came home. A couple of us were shot up a little bit, but we came home. 75, Roger got out of the Navy. He moved back to Memphis, Tennessee, where he's originally from. Met a cute little girl named Anita. They got married. I was the best man at their wedding. I was also the only white guy at the wedding. And I proved to them folks that white men can't dance, because I can't. I can 2-step with the best of them. Put on a little George Strait, I'll put on the show. Anything else, I just look stupid, but I don't care. I dance anyway. My wife just goes and hides somewhere when I start dancing. Unless I get a hold of her, and then she has to come in. Yeah. And I always pay for that later, anyway. And I'm the godfather to his oldest daughter, Taft. 16 years ago, on New Year's Eve, he went to a New Year's Eve party with his brother Ricky. While they were there, Ricky offered him a crack rock. He said, "Why don't you try this? It'll make you feel good, you'll like it." For those of you that don't know what crack is, it's a highly condensed and very powerful form of cocaine. It's actually how cocaine started before it's broken down into cocaine hydrochloride. Roger's an intelligent guy. He's also kind of curious. So he decided to try it. You got to understand something about my friend Roger. He's physically the biggest, strongest, toughest guy I've ever personally known in my life. 6'4", about 275, skinny waist, big old chest and shoulders. Guys, those of you who do weight training, Roger does warm-ups on the bench for 375. Guy's a monster. He's able, no. Same time, 16 years ago, I was speaking at a school in Tupelo, Mississippi. It's just 50 miles south of Memphis. And there's no VFW there. And I was there on November the 10th. That's a Marine Corps birthday. Marines are kind of fanatical about celebrating the Marine Corps birthday. Are there any Marines in here? Okay. Now there's 2 of us. We can take care of everybody else here. Never assume that a Marine by himself is outnumbered. That's a mistake. Anyway, I thought about it a minute. I didn't know anybody. There's no VFW, Tupelo, and none of that. I thought, wait a minute, Roger lives right up the door, and I called him. I said, "Roger, it's your Marine Corps birthday. Let's go have a beer." And I don't drink at all anymore. But he said, "Well, except on November the 10th, I always have one, and you guys know why." He said, "Okay, come on." I drove up to Memphis, picked him up. We went to a place here close to his house, and we sat around and had a couple of beers, mostly just talking about guys we won't see anymore. And I'd like to think on this particular night, I had too many beers. I really don't think I'm stupid, although my wife will debate that with him. And I still don't remember why, but for some reason or other, I bet Roger $100 he couldn't curl my weight. You know, curl my weight. He said, $100 on a dog? I said, yeah. He said, okay. And he just stepped off the stool. He reached down to go with this belt buckle, the one I'm wearing today, and another one like in the world I made this one. He said, hold my belt buckle, lifted me up, set me back down, and said, give me my $100, dog. Big, strong, healthy, tough guy. 7 weeks later, on New Year's Eve, he fired that crack rock up the first time and it busted his heart. He collapsed to the ground so hard it busted his kneecap. His brother Ricky was at least smart enough not to wait for an ambulance to get there. They threw him in the back of the car. Ricky did CPR on him and went straight to the hospital. Anita called me at about 1 in the morning my time. I still lived in LA, and that's before I got smart and went back to where normal people lived. I got there about 1 o'clock. I caught the first plane smoking out of Los Angeles. Walked in his hospital room. He's laying there all hooked up to all these machines with tubes and wire and all that stuff. Got his heart started back up. They did not get his heart started soon enough. His brain went for too long without oxygen. He was brain dead. I bent over and looked in my friend's eyes, and he was not there anymore. It took him that long to make the choice that took his life. For 1 second out of his whole life, he did not stop and think about what it might cause or what it might happen. It cost his wife her husband, it cost his daughters their dad, and it cost me the best friend I've ever had on this planet. I didn't get anything in the world if I'd have been there that night. Because if I'd have been there that night, he'd have to whip me to smoke that rock. Maybe he could have done it, I don't know. But he'd have had to. But I wasn't there when he needed a friend. I did later have a talk with his brother Ricky. Ricky don't like me anymore. I spent 20 days in jail over that. He spent a week in the hospital and I don't care. He killed my friend. And it was his brother. I still to this day don't get it. Why would you offer something like that to your own flesh and blood? If you get involved with drugs, one or more of 3 options. Oh, there is a kind of a humorous thing to this that I can see now. I haven't been able to do for a long time. A couple of years after this happened, I got the privilege of walking Tanisha down the aisle when she got married. She married a real nice young guy. And she was always, you know, I stopped in Memphis and see him all the time. I call her every week, talk to their girls and stuff. And she met this guy's going to get married. A good guy. He's stationed out there at Millington Naval Air Station. He's one of the Marine security guards at the gate and stuff. He's an MP. And she kept telling me, wait till you meet my pop. My pop's going to come when we get married. Wait till you meet my pop. And I showed up there one day. I was in Memphis. I was passing through Memphis. And I called them. They were home. And I went over there. And you should have seen the look on that boy's face when I walked in the living room. He did not understand that at all. She kept saying that I was her pop and I was the wrong color. That was kind of funny. But when I walked her down the aisle, I was real proud of her. And I cried. Because my friend wasn't there to walk his daughter down the aisle. One choice. If you get involved with drugs, one or more of 3 options. The third one is violence. If you get involved in drugs, I can guarantee you sooner or later it's going to go to violence. You'd be amazed at, maybe not, you'd be amazed at how small of an amount of drugs it takes to get you killed or money. And see, when you start using dope, several things change. You don't realize it right away, but it changes. Okay, well, let's do it this way. When you start using dope, first of all, you're not going to start using with a stranger, okay? Nobody rolls up a big old fat hooter and goes stands out here in the street corner and says, I got dope here, somebody want to help me smoke this pot? Nobody does that. The first guy to come along might be the cops. Everybody starts off using with people that they know and trust. A friend or an acquaintance, somebody they've known, many years. Well, that's fine. So you decide you're going to smoke a little pot with your pal. And in the beginning, you smoke just a little bit of pot. Your body has no tolerance to it, and you like it, it makes you feel good. So you decide you're going to keep smoking pot. As time goes along, as your body begins to develop a tolerance to it, you have to start using more dope. To get the same feeling you got in the beginning with that little bit, we call that chasing the dragon, and you'll never catch it, but nonetheless. And see, a couple other things are going to change. If you decide you're going to start smoking pot, you're going to reach a point, depending on your metabolism and how your body works, where it's going to take this much pot for you to get the same feeling you got in the beginning with that little bit. Well, if you're going to use more, you got to find a way to get more. There's only 4 ways you get pot. You grow your own, but not many people want to wait till October during the harvest to get high. Or you get a job, you take the paycheck on Friday, you go down and buy a little dope. Or you begin to steal and trade what you've stolen or sell it to get the money to buy dope. Unfortunately, by their own admission in intake interviews, the guys who are in prison just on drug charges alone and nothing else, by their own admission, 89, I can't remember. It's right at 90%. Admitted they started by smoking pot. Some of them stayed with it, some of them moved on to bigger drugs. They started with pot. Well, see, body's a marvelous machine, more sophisticated than anything. And as time goes by, your body's going to build a tolerance for whatever you're doing. Those of you involved in athletics, you already know what I'm talking about. As you work out, you get bigger, better, stronger, and faster, you reach levels of performance you can't get past unless you change the way you train. That's the same thing with drugs and alcohol. Well, if you're going to get more dope, unfortunately, almost everybody involved with pot goes with option number 4. They start doing a little bit of dealing. See, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if I buy this much pot, sell it off to my friends, what I've got left over is mine for free. Well, if I buy this much pot and sell it off to my friends, not only is mine free, but I get a chance to make a little cash. Hey, it's capitalism, free enterprise. That's part of what made America great. I'm not talking about dope deal, I'm talking about capitalism. Just for the sake of argument, let's say you decide to do that. Plus you do a little bit of dealing. You see, something else is going to start happening then. You're going to start meeting people that you haven't known for a long time, like the person you started with. You're going to meet people at a party or, cruising the boulevard or whatever. You're going to meet people that use dope just with you, just like you do, that you've only known through that party or through that meeting or for a week or 10 days or 2 weeks or a month, whatever. When you get to thinking, I'm going to start doing a little dealing, and then you remember, you met this guy at a party down in Joliet, the town, not the prison. And he's got better dope than your pal has, and he sells it for less money. And you get to think, well, I'll go buy his dope. I'll be able to sell more dope for more money. I'll make more money. So you call this guy on the phone. We'll call this guy Joe. No offense to anybody named Joe. And you tell him what you want to do. He remembers who you are. You tell him when. He tells you where. You're on your way to meet him. Unknown to you, Joe's got a guy in his life like I used to be. And Joe owes me a lot of money. And the only reason I tell this story is because I've never collected money in Illinois. See, Joe owes me a lot of loot. And Joe knows when I come to collect my money, I come with a Model 39 Smith & Wesson and a pair of pruning shears. You guys know what pruning shears are? They're those real heavy-duty scissors landscapers use to cut off tree limbs with. Tree limbs, other things. Just because you run out of fingers, that doesn't mean you don't still owe me money. The fingers are just the interest on what you owe me. Joe gets to thinking about that. He says, you know what? I only met this kid a couple of weeks ago. I don't know him. This guy here is serious about wanting his money. And he thinks, I'll just take this kid's cash and give it to this guy, then I can learn to play piano someday. And you show up with your money and you're ready to rock. Say, hey man, I got my cash, let's do the deal. He says, great, give me the money. You say, well, let me see the dope first. He says, no, give me the money now. See, Joe's been in the drug business for a while. He knows how this works. And he's, he's been around, he's been good at it for a while because he's still doing it. And when it happens, one thing I can promise you, it'll happen without warning and it'll be sudden. Boom! And he shoots you. If you're not dead when you hit the ground, you're hurt and you're scared. You better be real scared now because you're now what's known in a court of law as a live witness. Joe's going to shoot you again. Just for the sake of argument, let's say you're a pretty tough guy, you jump up and you grab Joe, before he shoots it that second time. You wrestle the gun away from him, things get exciting and everything starts happening. All of a sudden, boom, and Joe's dead. You wind up shooting him with his own gun because he's going to kill you. You kill a man who tried to murder you in cold blood. You defended yourself. You saved your own life. How many of you would call that self-defense? Raise your hand. That scare you? Everybody in this room to raise their hand will be charged with capital felony murder in the state of Illinois. There is no self-defense during the commission of a crime. A dope deal is a drug transaction. It's an illegal crime. If anybody dies during that drug transaction, everybody involved will be charged to some degree with murder. You the guy that dropped Joe, that's capital felony murder. Do they still execute in this state? No? Well, then that's life without the possibility of parole. You the guy out in the car waiting to give Joe a ride home to the no deal? That's accessory to capital felony murder, and that's good for 20. One choice again. And every time I do this, 10. I'm going to tell you about a friend of mine named Jose. Jose's a good kid. And when I say I met him, I spoke at his school just like I'm speaking here. Okay, when I leave, I give all my information to the school. If any guys want to send me an email, write me a letter, call me on the phone, that's fine. I'll be glad to talk to you. Anything you want to talk about, stay between us. I don't play that stuff. And I got a letter from Jose, so I knew I had spoken at his school. But when I got the letter, the stamp on the back of the envelope said, "This correspondence originates in a correctional facility." I knew that Jose had turned into one of those 15 out of 100. Why I couldn't convince him, or why he didn't believe it, or whatever, I don't know. But he wrote me a letter. I started reading the letter, and I found out that they busted my young friend Jose, who's known in the drug trade, with an 8-ball of cocaine in his car in the parking lot at school. On school property makes everything much more serious. Unfortunately, Jose had his little 8-ball packaged up in 7 separate half-gram containers. If your drugs are packaged separately under the law, you're automatically considered to be a dealer. It's called possession with intent to distribute. The sentence for possession with intent to distribute generally is 3 to 4 times greater than the sentence for simple possession. Well, Jose got a deal with him, because there are several other charges that went with that they could charge you with. He agreed to plead guilty to the one charge if they drop everything else, and they did. And he pled guilty to the possession with intent to distribute, found him guilty, sentenced him, sent him on down to prison. He arrived at prison 2 weeks after his 18th birthday. First offense. They gave him 80 years. That's 8-0. Because he was on school property. The feds can do that anytime they want.